Hey, man, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. And
hmm
before we get into your work and your career, I want to know, we're coming up on the 4-year anniversary of this pandemic. How did you survive the pandemic, and how did it subsequently change you?
Wow. I remember it distinctly. We were actually at my husband's office in Boston, which we had just started. We just purchased, and we were just getting ready to launch. He's a real estate broker and a real estate attorney. Putting the finishing touches on all of the paint and the wallpaper, everything. And the mayor started to shut things down. And the neighborhood that we lived in, I lived there for almost 20 years, South Boston, which we call Southie. It's where you see all the gangster movies
Yeah.
in Boston. It's been a overly gentrified neighborhood over the past 2 decades. I got in the first wave. So the office is there. We start hearing about things shutting down. St. Patrick's weekend is the biggest weekend in Boston, especially in that neighborhood. All the bars are packed for days. The parade goes down the street there. And I said to Rory, my husband, I'm like, why don't we just drive up Broadway and see, because they said don't go out. Like that was when things are starting to shut down. And there were just lines everywhere. And I was like, this is not going to end well. And at that time, we really had no idea what was about to happen, right? So a couple days later, my office shut back when I was working a W-2 job. And I said to Rory, like, let's just get out of here. So we drove north up to one of our short-term rentals. Right, fast forward right now, I basically am a real estate investor and I manage all of our properties, plus have a property management company in Provincetown. But we went way up to New Hampshire, hour and a half north, because I was convinced they were going to shut the borders down. I didn't know what was going to happen. None of us knew it was going to happen. But I was like, let me get out of the city. Let's get out of here. Let's go up to the house. We don't have, it's the slow season, March and April in New Hampshire. So we went up there and then we just watched it. We watched our daycare close. We watched the world close down. We watched all of our bookings dry up, at the two properties that we had live then. We're thinking, how are we going to pay these mortgages? Because part of the magic of short-term rentals is that, you can have other people pay your mortgage for you and then you get to use these properties. And then, persistence. We just kind of stood the course and said, hey, listen, like there's going to be opportunity here, along with everything shutting down. So we found what the opportunity was. Things started to rebook, at least on our calendar. Rory got busy again with his work, started to reopen. And that's when we started to have the vision of saying, hey, listen, I'm not long for the W-2 job I was working at that time. I'd been in the media for a couple decades, most recently as a digital sales director. And I said, I'm ready for the next chapter. So we started to put a plan in place for me to transition away and to be a real estate investor full time. And, that was basically the seeds of it. And then there were a couple years where we're in the office, out of the office, in the office, out of the office. But in the meantime, we started to see this side gig that I had, the weekend stuff, which is basically managing two short-term rentals that we owned. We started to see that take off. The properties grew in value, the bookings increased, the values we were getting for all the bookings was going up. And I said, we can make a go at this and I could do this full time. So that's what we did. In 2022, when my job ended, I just, easily transitioned into this world. And, here we are sitting with a bunch of real estate. I'm in a short-term rental mastermind, learning and networked with the best people in the country that do what I do. And we just launched a property management company in Provincetown, Massachusetts, which is on the very, very tip of Cape Cod. It is one of the biggest gay destinations in the country, and we're the only LGBTQ plus property management company that specializes in short-term rentals. That's it.
So, you just had no idea when this pandemic started where it would go. I mean, there was no way to even know what was going to take off.
No, I mean, like, we're big believers in modern medicine. Like we certainly were waiting for the vaccines. We played everything safe. I myself have had COVID a number of times despite getting all of my vaccines. And, each time that I've gotten it now, I got on the Paxlovid afterward, and it was basically just a really mild case. And I
Yeah.
really, we could all everyone's got their own opinion of all this stuff, but we strongly believe that everything has been mild for us because of, our health and because of the fact that we stayed up to date with all of the vaccines. But at the time, we had no idea, what was going to happen. And my parents are, older, they're outside New York City. They were seeing friends and family die, around them because New York was one of the epicenters. It was wild. It was a really wild time that, I kind of hope we never, you know, re-enter a situation like that where
Yeah.
everything just shut down and everyone just had to figure out their plan B's and C's.
Yeah. It all seems kind of like a dream. My metaphor for it is the Dali melting clocks. Everything just kind of
Hmm.
seems to blend together. It's weird, very weird.
Yeah.
So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. And one of the little guys says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
So I'll say, do you ever travel with your parents and you go stay in somebody else's house? And maybe the people who own the house aren't there when you're staying there, and you're renting their house when you go on vacation. Maybe go skiing, go to the mountains, go somewhere fun. I own those houses and I manage them for other people as well. So my job is to make sure that you and your family have a great time when they're staying there, that everything is super clean, that the beds are comfortable, that there's instructions everywhere so you know how to use the internet and the TVs, that there's fun games there for you to play, and that it's part of a memorable trip that you make with your family.
So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
Well, I want to be a game show host.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever do anything along those lines and go for it?
I mean, I worked in the media for a long time. So,
Yeah.
I went to Brown University and I went there for pre-med, and all my friends were pre-med, and, it was tough. Like, I decided I didn't want to go to med school. Somewhere along the way. I took the MCAT and everything and just said this wasn't for me. But while I was there, I worked at the radio station, which back in the early 90s was a really, really big deal. It was way before anything was streaming, and it was right at the advent of grunge. So we played Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and Nine Inch Nails when they were all current artists releasing
Yeah.
current music. And I just loved it. I mean, I was always a big music fan growing up. I never played music, but I was always watching the charts and all that. So I kind of fell into that side of the industry. And then after college, I dabbled a little bit on the radio for a couple years, but then I found myself to a radio consultancy where I worked for almost 10 years, traveling the country, conducting focus groups, and working with some of the biggest stations across the country on improving their programming and improving, their morning show talent. That was a really, really fun job. But it became a grind because I was on the road for like 150 nights a year and wanted to build a life here in Boston. Along the way, I'd moved up to Boston from the New York, New Jersey area. So I guess I kind of moved into a entertainment tangential job.
Yeah.
Most of the time I spent at that position was not behind the microphone, but I'm very comfortable behind the microphone. I was in front of a crowd of people conducting focus groups. We have our own podcast, we host a real estate law podcast, which is at this point, I think we have about 160 episodes of that, and we're talking to people all across the country. And I think that the roots of why we're good at that podcast is because because I understand the media business, but then I transitioned over into the sales side of that business, which is really where the money's made.
Yeah, for sure. So what was the first live show that you saw that blew you away? Since you're a music fan.
So the first live show that I ever saw, period, was the Hooters in the Outfield back in 1985 or 86.
Yeah.
And I still like both those debut albums to this day. They
Yeah.
were both great albums. Probably I wouldn't put that on the list of like the top shows that blew me away. It was just kind of like the first experience in going to a concert.
Yeah.
I saw Bruce Springsteen at the TD Garden here in Boston when he was doing the River tour, when he
Yeah.
he did the whole River Live and then did a lot of greatest hits afterward, and he was just outstanding. I've been a fan of Bruce since the mid 80s. So, just being able to finally see him live was great. We got to see Green Day on a club gig back when they were touring on, I forget which album it was, but it was within the past 10 years. We had seats behind home plate at Fenway Park that someone gave us. And we went there for a couple innings, and then we left to go right across the street to the House of Blues because the station I was working for gave us some Green Day tickets, which were the hottest tickets in town. So,
Yeah.
I got to say those two shows. I've seen Arcade Fire a couple times also, and they're
They're
just,
great.
fantastic,
Yeah.
amazing band. Yeah,
I don't know what their future is. I think the dude,
I
the
don't
lead
either.
singer, yeah, got into some hot water. So, but those
He
guys are so good.
So
Yeah.
good. I think they're still touring actually. I
Yeah.
mean, they put an album out and then all that stuff came up.
Yeah.
So, who knows where it's going to go.
Yeah.
I've seen Foo Fighters a couple times, I mean, just
Nice.
lots. I just the list kind of goes on. We have an almost 5-year-old right now, so it's kind of hard
Yeah.
to get to shows. But
Yeah.
the tickets we bought for this, we bought some tickets. Now I have to buy the tickets. I used to go to shows for free all the time,
Yeah.
but I'm finally going to see the Indigo Girls for the first time.
Oh,
And
cool.
Melissa Etheridge is it's a dual headliner bill,
Yeah.
two bands and two artists that like I had their cassettes back in
Yeah.
high school. Like
Yeah.
before I even understood what gay and lesbian and everything was, like they were just hit makers and I love
Yeah.
them. And I'm so excited to be able to go to see them this summer.
Yeah. Melissa's from Leavenworth, Kansas. She's local here. I think she's from the hometown of Amelia Earhart. And my wife saw the Indigo Girls. There's a place called the Crossroads here. It's kind of a
Mhm.
quaint little outdoor venue, and it just blew her mind. They were so good. So yeah.
I know you do, you have a jazz podcast also.
Yeah.
I have a lot of experience conducting a lot of focus groups with a format that is no longer around these days, but it was called smooth jazz. It's very
Yeah.
different from traditional jazz. There was a station in Kansas City back in the day, but I mean, the ratings they used to put up back in the 90s and early 2000s are really, really good.
Yeah.
And the company I worked for just had a consultancy in smooth jazz. So I was this young kid that was listening to all this instrumental music and, vocal stuff from the 70s and 80s that was part of that format.
Yeah, yeah. It just won't catch on regular radio. We don't even have we got hour blocks here and there, but
Yeah.
I mean, you get some of the bigger cities like, Seattle, and I listen to San Francisco. I listen to KCSM. That's my
Mhm.
main jazz station I listen to, but it's just not, it gained a little traction over the pandemic. But
Mhm.
it's just people are afraid, I think. It can be too highbrow. There's things that people feel about it, and it just doesn't happen. So,
What I have learned in the time after, I mean, with streaming right now, we could all create the perfect playlist, right? Like we
yeah,
don't need a radio station to really present that to us. There is still a comfort with radio. I actually still listen to a lot of Sirius XM because I like
yeah,
the curation that they have for some of the channels. But even if a format can't make it on terrestrial radio these days, it doesn't mean it's not relevant. I mean, there could
right.
be millions of fans of a format. They just have to kind of find the music themselves instead
Yeah,
of, one of their local stations playing it.
yeah, absolutely. So, let me ask you this: who's been a hero for you in your life?
Um, I respect all the educators I've had, for the many, many years. I had some really great teachers throughout my time in high school and college. My parents also have always been great fans of mine. I'm an only child and, they've really sacrificed a lot for me. I speak with them every single Sunday, via FaceTime. I'd hop down to New York whenever I can so they could see their granddaughter who they want to see more than me these days. But my father cares for my mother full time now. They've been together since they were like 14, 16 years old. And, she has some pretty severe disabilities. She's had MS her whole life. And she still perseveres. She's cheated death a number of times, as did he. And there's still two peas in the pod, kind of surviving together. I wish I was closer geographically, but I had to live my life and I moved up here, but I still talk to them all the time and I'm greatly appreciative of everything that they've done for me through my life.
So, if you could meet one person alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating and spend some time with them, who would that be?
So, I knew this question was coming, so
Okay.
I had to I thought about this in advance. And I'm not super starstruck these days. Cuz I also kind of think it's a little bit weird to be in almost, late 40-year-old guy starstruck by these, super people that are doing some fantastic things that are a lot younger than us. It was just nice to meet them. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, oh, nice to meet Taylor Swift, Olivia Rodrigo, whatever. But I'd say Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete.
Yeah.
I mean, he's now at Secretary of Transportation, but I think he ran an amazing campaign back when he ran for office. I thought he was a great bridge between both sides of the aisle.
Uh-huh.
He's super smart. He's not afraid to, speak up against injustice and against people, that are on the other side of the aisle from him. He wants to have those debates. I did support him when he was running for office. When he dropped out, I shifted my support over to Elizabeth Warren, who I also love. But I think that I'd love to have a conversation with Pete Buttigieg. I think that we have a lot in common. I think he adopted children.
Yeah.
He has two kids.
Yeah.
He was out in Provincetown a little bit also. Where we operate Prideaway Stays, and that was a pretty hot ticket when he came to town. He was raising some money, so I'd
Yeah.
love to talk to him.
I love it when he gets on the shows and he just fillets people. Like he'll just sit there and listen to this lunacy that we're
Hmm.
getting fed in this political machine we have right now, and he just straight face just lays it out there. I love it. He's the
Yeah,
soundbite I look forward to.
he's so smart also. I mean, the only concern I have is that he would fall into the same, level of like politics and having to edit what he really wants to say. I don't think he
Yeah.
does it at this
Right.
point. And I know that
Right.
all politicians say something on camera and they'll say something off camera. I think he's pretty aligned with what you'd hear off camera as
Yeah.
well.
I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, for sure. So, what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
My uncle a long time ago, when I kind of was going to my first job down in New Jersey when I was moving out officially, he said it's all about who you know. He just kind of mentioned it to me, and it never really clicked until I don't know these past few years as a real estate investor. We started going to real estate meetups probably around 2015, 2016 when we knew that we wanted to get a little bit more involved in the real estate community, at least the investor community. And it really is who you know. I mean, like if and as a hiring manager at my old job, I realized how difficult it is to hire people, right? To sometimes it's just a pain in the butt. You put a job out there, you get 100 applications, you're not sure which ones are the good ones. 10% of them might be qualified. It's a lot easier if you have a task that you need or a job that needs to get done where you could ask trusted people saying, "Hey, do you know so and so that could help me with this?" And the word of mouth conversations happen all the time in the real estate investing world. I mean, I help people out with handyman contractors, who do you know that could help with, a loan. So it really just goes back to him saying, it really is who you know. And I never really went down the road of I was never in a fraternity at college. I never had this huge network of people that my parents knew that were able to put me into career paths or into like plum gigs afterward. Like I really did kind of create everything on my own. They helped me get to the schools I needed to get to, but then I got through them myself, and then I met the people I needed to meet, and then those turned into I mean, most of the jobs I had turned into people that spoke on my behalf that said, "Hey, listen, like you have this role open, and you asked me if I knew anybody, and Jason's the one that you really need to talk to." That happened 4 times
Yeah.
in my career. So I see the value of building a network. We're doing that right now. With Prideaway Stays in Provincetown, it's all word of mouth. We're doing a lot of direct mail and a lot of digital marketing as well, to get the word out that we are in town. But there's only about 1,000 short-term rentals in Provincetown, and a lot of it is who you know and a recommendation from someone that hears of you, even if they don't want to work with you. So, we're super eager to meet lots of people, and that goes right back to the advice my uncle gave me, which was literally, just build your network. It is who you know.
So, let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 20-year-old version of you. You can give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've led, the wisdom you've gained. What
Hmm.
advice would you give that young version of you?
Buy real estate earlier.
Right.
Buy it
Yeah.
earlier. I bought my first condo. I think I was 27 or so. I don't remember 26, 27. I would have bought a couple years before then.
Yeah.
I would have bought a little bit further along the way. And, I've spoken a lot on our podcast and elsewhere about leaving a W-2 job, having a plan B, kind of forming your own pathway. It's not as simple as you could just quit today and then suddenly like you want to go do something else. You have to really have this like transition, especially if you want to do it in the real estate world. A lot of times people will build up their portfolio using their primary home, a home equity line of credit on that property, a second home loan, and all along the way they're qualifying using their income with a W-2 job. The way that the banks have it set up is if you want that kind of traditional financing, you need that income. If you don't have that job and you're an entrepreneur, even if you're working with a company that's making a couple $1,000,000 a year, you're probably less you're a lower quality borrowing candidate than someone that is working, a full-time job and getting paid 150K a year or something. So I would say, get started in real estate earlier if possible. You know, there's a term called house hacking, which got really popular about 10 years ago in this space, where it means buy a multifamily property, move into one of the units, rent out the other one, eventually move out of your unit, fix it up, rent out both of them, go to the next property, do it again. Then you start kind of stacking up your real estate portfolio, because it'll get people to be able to leave their jobs if they want to sooner, because they'll start
Yeah.
to build all this passive and active income on the side. And, I'm okay that I didn't really do that until I started investing in my 40s. I would have loved to have accelerated that time frame. So I would have said that to my 20-year-old self. And oddly enough, an old boss of mine said that to me. And I was like, you know what you're paying me. How am I supposed to get that place, right?
Yeah.
But there are ways. I didn't know about 3% down, 3.5% down FHA loans at the time. I would have tried to get a little bit better of a financial education and how to really build your pathway, early on. And I think that's something that is a disservice that we're not doing to our youth. Like I went to a great school. I studied biology. I was going to go to medical school and decide not to go to that. But like nowhere along the way at Brown did I learn, like financial, there's no financial literacy courses there.
Yeah.
I took an accounting course once. I took an entrepreneurship course once. Maybe it's different today, but I think we really need to be getting in the heads of these kids a lot earlier to understand finances.
I agree. I totally agree. So of all of the things that you've done and overcome and become in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Um, I mean, everything we've built, I really feel like I've built myself along with the help of people, but not the here's $1 million, we're helping you. Along the way, I got a little bit of help from parents, twice I could think of it. Once, during a job loss in the late 2000s, and once when I wanted to buy my first condo, but both of those were minimal. At the time, it felt like a lot of money, but I think that they gave me $15,000 total,
Yeah.
and that really has accelerated um what I've been able to do. I think that I was grounded in a really good financial sense, and I didn't wander, or I didn't waste my money. I didn't buy frivolous things. We live well. We've traveled a lot. If there's things that we want to do, we do them. But nothing is extravagant. My car's from 2015 right now, and I still love it. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm really proud that I was able to have that discipline over my life, that it didn't get out of hand, and that I was able to kind of work a career for, I worked in the radio industry starting in 1991, radio and television, until 2022. So what is that? 30, 31 years or
Yeah.
something. A bunch of them were during college, but it was a professional station we worked for, so I kind of count it. But when I want to feel like I'm younger, I only say a couple decades. I don't say
Yeah.
it was 3 decades. I say
Yeah.
two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I worked for a long time in a great career. I got to travel the world in that career, conducting focus groups and seeing lots of places that I never would have seen. And then, I got to bow out. I wish it was on my terms, but it wasn't, but that's okay because I already had another plan in place. And now I get to kind of redo chapter two. And
Yeah.
chapter two has been super exciting. We've been doing this for about 2 years now, full time. And man, things are great.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm confident in who I am. So I'm honest. Like I tell people what's on my mind. I am open to hearing other people's opinions. I am very liberal in the way I think. I'm conservative financially to an extent, but I strongly believe people should live the lives they want to live, and I'll help support how they want to live the lives they want to live. I've been fortunate to be involved with a number of great LGBTQ plus organizations in Boston that are dedicated to athletics. So, my husband and I met in the gay softball league in Boston. And we've been playing. I played from 2009 until probably 2021. Played, coached, very competitive, traveled at tournaments. It was super fun. Had some great teams, met some great teammates. And then I play in the Flag Football League in Boston, which is the first flag football league in the United States that was sponsored by an NFL team. So the
Oh, cool.
Patriots jumped in, and they sponsored flag football in Boston before any other NFL teams jumped into supporting their local leagues. And the league has a great relationship with the Kraft family and the Patriots, and it's been around for I think 25 years. We just had our 25th celebration. I was a captain for 9 years, played for 11, and now I'm a referee in the league. So I like giving back
Oh,
to the league and still staying connected to. It makes me feel younger,
yeah.
frankly,
Yeah.
because it's a lot of younger folks that are playing now.
Yeah. Very cool. So if anyone wants to listen to your podcast, they want to reach out, the good business, anything, everything related to what you're doing, where do they go?
Yeah, easiest place is my name. So Jason Muth, muth.com. That kind of has links to everywhere. Our podcast is called the Real Estate Law Podcast, and you can go to realestatelawpodcast.com to see all of our past episodes, or if you want to be a guest on the episode, reach out to us there. And if you want to know about Prideaway Stays, that is our short-term rental management business that serves Provincetown, Mass. So just P-Town. We're really looking to hyper-focus on P-Town. If you happen to be a property owner there, or you're looking to own property in P-Town and want to work with a gay-owned organization, which a lot of people in P-Town do, you can go to prideawaystays.com and learn all about us there.
Right on. Jason, thank you so much. Thanks for your story. Thanks for your time. Best of luck with everything.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thank you. Take